Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Hello, everyone. My name is Sylvain Chamberlain. I am the abbot of the Threefold Lotus Kwoon. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your practice. Thank you for your study. Okay, we are in the midst of a long series, maybe, of definitions in the new book, Buddhism Reference. The book, in case you're new here and haven't heard yet, is kind of the raison d'etre of this channel, of the website, of the bookstore, of the ebooks on threefoldlotus.com, to clear up a lot of historical, we're talking about almost 3,000 years of scholarship of Buddhism, addressing different cultures, different languages, different ways of thinking. And so there's a lot of old traditions that started up out of these, right? It's hard to stay to the core of the teachings because individually, as Shakyamuni taught us, we all have our own path, our own way of understanding and getting to our enlightenment. So as a consequence, over hundreds and hundreds of years, different cultures, different ways of thinking, they've kind of married their own traditional ways of thought, even some of their folklore and so forth, and pushed it into Buddhism. And so what you end up with, as Nichiren, our mentor, tells us, is all manner of erroneous thoughts and derivations and outright errors, really bad contradictions. But as Nichiren did, if you go back and just look at the text, you straighten yourself out. It just doesn't resonate with Shakyamuni's words. This is Nichiren, this is our modern teacher, this is our mentor, and he tells us to emulate his path. So this is my effort. My effort is to take these teachings, Nichiren's scholarship, and say, look, this isn't medieval Japan anymore. This is 2023. This is an age of tremendous distractions, right? Social media, come on. Our information centers are so fractured. And then you have voices from traditions in the past. Now, look over here, look over here. Talk about an example for the monkey mind that Shakyamuni talked about, right? So this book is an effort, just as these videos are an effort, just as the website with all its free information is an effort to try to uncluster, this folklore and tradition from actual usable understanding, so we can get our own insights with modern language, with modern thinking, with what we're already capable of doing, right? We don't need to cloister ourselves into a concrete box so we can figure out what hunger is really like, how the mind and body work together. We don't need to do those things, right? We can abstain from sexual activity for a little while to understand the tremendous forces in our karmic freight train to reproduce, to hold on to things, to possess, right? The very things Shakyamuni was trying to explain to people, this is why you suffer. This is why you have anxiety. This is why you have stress. We're not going to get rid of it, right? Enjoy food. Enjoy play, enjoy sex, enjoy all of the things in samsara. But try to shift your mind away from all of that activity of ownership and simply breathe in the prana, the very essence of how amazing it is to be. And so then when you go and do those activities, a very different idea of what's going on pervades your mind. You don't get rid of it, but now you can experience it at such an immense level. Like Nichiren said, go home, be with your lover, and as you're copulating, as you're making love, really make love, chant to one another. Chant together. Could you imagine? Could you even pull it off? No pun intended. Could you actually be in the midst of sexual splendor and chant together? What would that be like? Nichiren makes a valid point, right? And there's a lot of folks out there who've gotten involved with Buddhism and older traditions and things, and they don't realize that there's no getting rid of in Shakyamuni's teachings, right? There's entire branches of Buddhism that are about either getting rid of everything, like attachments, as though they're throwing away samsara, which is not right. And others that don't even deal with it just say, well, wait till after you die and then you'll go to a nice place. Amida Buddha, Amida Buddha. Totally missing the point. It's not even Buddhism, really. Buddhism has always been, even before Siddhartha Gautama's enlightenment, about living this life to the fullest. Where's afterlife comes into that? Nowhere. That's not Buddhism. Buddhism's about this life, making the most of this life, experiencing it to the full. That's a very Mahayana thinking process. Why Mahayana? Because Shakyamuni taught to the capacity of the people. For the first 42 years of his teaching life, he spoke to the capacity of what people could understand and raise their consciousnesses, raise their awareness slowly, because we're stubborn creatures. And only in the last 8 years, but 8 years is a long time of his life, did he go, okay, now you can do the same thing I did. Lotus Sutra. This is how you do it. Just do this. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Nichiren, to Nichiren, blindingly obvious. Right? And this is what Nichiren teaches us how to do. And he uses all the sutras, even the folklore and the stories of ancient China and India and so forth, to demonstrate, you see, I'm not just inventing this. This is what Shakyamuni was teaching. This is why sometimes it rubs me the wrong way when people talk about Nichiren Buddhism. It's not his Buddhism, but it is his enlightenment. It is his elucidation. It is his scholarship to demonstrate what the core and the correct meaning and practice of Shakyamuni's Buddhism. Without Shakyamuni, there is no Buddhism. Buddhism was his enlightenment. He's simply teaching it. And Nichiren, for our modern age, saw clearly what he was saying. That's why he's our mentor, yeah? And that's why this book I'm creating to help bolster what Nichiren was saying in our modern terminology. Because since medieval Japan, science has taken us way beyond the understanding of those folks. So let's use that. Let's use that knowledge to our advantage, right? All right. So we are on the term, formation? How appropriate. I use this term all the time. Shakyamuni used this term, right? In very early teachings, he said the way to get rid of suffering, our clinging attachments, cravings for things, it's not about the things, it's about our mind and the way we cling. That's what creates all our muddiness about life. So you have to, in the words of early translations of many languages into English, cease the formations, right? Not cease the attachments, although that's eventually what it means, or cease the clinging, the cravings, right? And that's how it's usually taught, translated. But if you look back early, he was talking about ceasing the formations of those cravings. Much more profound. Why isn't it translated that way? Just on hearing it, you're thinking, yeah, we don't We think about my piano, my guitar, my car, my lover, my this, my that. But we don't think about, how did I come to this possession of something? What's driving that mine, me, I? Right? What's driving that? What is that engine of craving? Well, it's in the formations. Formation, critically important piece of the puzzle, but missing in so many schools, opinions, sects, organizations, on and on, right? So let's talk about formation. I list it as a noun or verb, depends on how you use it or look at it. Here's some definitions. An act of giving form or shape to something. Language is slippery here, right? It's not quite accurate. But an act of giving form or shape to something, or of taking form, development, see engine of life. Instead of something, it should say energy. Wouldn't that read more true? An act of giving form or shape to energy, or of taking form. That's what we're talking about. Now, a lot of these definitions I just took right off of the internet, like Britannica and the Buddhism Encyclopedia.com, right? I've looked for what we would think of and what they would label themselves authoritative sources of information. And yet, even they, right? Not quite getting it right. Where are they getting these ideas? You might say, well, Sylvain, why don't you correct that in the book? Because I want you to see. I want you to understand how you can, if you shoot an arrow at a target and you don't hit the target, you missed. You didn't come close, right? Hit the target or don't hit the target. Certainly with our enlightenment, don't you appreciate accuracy? Wouldn't you? All right, number 2, something that is formed. And I put in parentheses, transformation. What transformation? Do you know? Have you been watching long enough you already know, right? Energy into tendencies and conditions. So important. That's that part of transformation. That's formation. Long before there's a thing, there's a definite, like read the Nidana. There's an attraction, an opposition, qualities and characteristics coming together long before, that's what that looks like. That's what that feels like. The thing is like a leftover. Because the thing is a samsaric definition of that transformation, of the formation, which never ends, moment to moment to moment to moment. The thing we're looking at the end, it's like taking the what's the word, the stamen at the middle of a flower and going, wow, look at that flower. No, look, there's so much more going on to that flower. Not only the petals, but the bud from which that came, the flower, and the bud attached to the rest of the plant and the roots and the earth and 3, new word informations, like in language, when we make a word, or sometimes, as I do, make up a word, using the information of language to transform into something with meaning. Number 4, the manner in which a thing is formed, a structure, as in formations. Right? Because a formation is it's a very minute thing, and it happens in a Planck unit moment. Right? See the definition for moment. Max Planck, a great physicist, yes, mathematician. 5, the peculiar formation of the heart-mind, like emotions, feelings. What do those look like? Where do I find? Is that in my arm? Where's that heart-mind connection? Asian philosophy has had this since time immemorial. This idea of emotive sensation, feeling, right? It's palpable, but it's not tangible, right? Where do you find it? So that's kind of a usage of the word formation, right? I'm forming an opinion, right? All right, so how did I take all of that and turn it into a discussion on formations? And a lot of you will be familiar with some of the terminologies and ideas I bring up in these couple of paragraphs here, but some of you who aren't, please understand that this channel, with all of its videos, there's a little search icon with a magnifying glass right in the middle of the page. Well, off to the right, but in the not the top search, that's for Google or YouTube. I mean, in this channel, there's many more, over 1,000 videos on this channel. And, you know, it would take you years to go through them all, to watch them, and listen. But you could put a keyword in that little search criteria and you'll get a result set. Sometimes just one, most times 3 to 5, sometimes 20. But there'll be, that keyword will be in the title or the description or somehow related. Not always, but 99% of the time, you're going to pull up a video that directly relates to that keyword. So use that. Or on the podcast page, there's a similar, I'm not sure how well it works, I haven't used it, but I know there's a similar designed search there too. All right, so let's get into it. And if something seems like it's leaving you in the weeds, remember, you can look on the channel. You can even look on threefoldlotus.com at the static information you can print out there. These concepts are discussed and you can get a deeper insight, yeah? So here we go. In our use of the term formation, the word is an identifier for a transitional phase of the, quote, engine of life. Again, you can look that up in this book. In this regard, formation is more of a verb than a noun, since it describes an action, the transformation of energy into mass, just as indicated by the simplified math of the great Einstein, E equals mc squared, right? Most of you know this. M being mass, C being the speed of causality. And again, I refer you to the Planck units of measure, specifically a moment, yeah? It's so incredibly, you can't fathom how. In fact, using the word quickly is too long. But look it up in the under moment. You'll be fascinated, I promise. All right, E equals mc squared, an equation in German-born physicist Albert Einstein's theory of special relativity that expresses the fact that mass and energy are equivalent. That's the important key there. That mass actually is formed of formations, various states of energy. What are states of energy? Their states are something, we don't have a better word, that represents tendencies and conditions. And we label that something. That's where the something comes from, our labeling of it. And physicists, scientists, mathematicians, biologists, chemists, all fond of saying, I know what this is now, I understand it, so let me put a label on it. Be careful with words. They're just pointers, right? Shakyamuni warned of this in the Lankavatara Sutra. He said, don't get hung up on the words. Try to understand what they're pointing to, what the meaning is. That's our whole aspect of study in Buddhism, trying to get past the language. So this is my effort, trying to make the language more relatable so we can get past it and understand for ourselves, get our insights, right? I'm not interested about being multilingual in Buddhism. I'm interested in Buddha-ness. That's what we all want. So that's what study is for, is to get us closer. All right. The same entity energy, mass, and can be transformed into one or the other. Mass be transformed into energy. You ever burn something? The burned thing becomes ash, if anything, but the heat that comes from it, that's energy, right? An explosion, a very fast expression of energy, leaving in its wake a lot of nothing, no thing. Transformed mass into energy. Why isn't so intuitive then that energy can go the other way around and create mass? Why don't we get that? A welder gets that, right? With all that energy and sparks melting metal, he makes a new form. Energy into mass. The welded bead. The melding of two plates. We see it all the time, but we don't think that way. In the equation, the increased relativistic mass of a body multiplied by the speed of causality squared, c squared, is equal to the kinetic potential, E, of that body. Now, it's not quite right. E is just energy, quiescent, at rest. But when some action, some moment of tendencies and conditions at a Planck unit, right? Moment, speed of causality, boom, kinetics are produced. You know what kinetic energy is? You remember that from high school math? Kinetics? A body in motion tends to stay in motion. Friction and other things get in its way and they slow it down. But left alone in a vacuum, something that's moving would just keep moving. Much like life, a momentum. And the flip side of that is things at rest. Well, they tend to stay at rest unless some action, some work is applied. Right? And if you look up the word karma in this book, you'll find energy at rest plus actions, work, any kind of impetus. What do you get? You get kinetics. And once you get kinetics, you have formations. Just like ripples in a pond, yeah? And when you have formations, you're bound to end up with either form or it peters out in dissolution. That action, that formation, that causality of action into kinetics, into momentum, that's karma. That is karma. Also greatly misunderstood. So formations is everywhere throughout the concepts of Buddhism, why it's an important concept and why I'm talking about it so much. It is the kinetics, or more rightly, the manifestation of kinetics, that identifies this process of formation or transformation. Of course, the process from energy, quiescence, through formation and into form or formlessness, whichever way it goes, happens at the speed of the speed of causality. If you want to know more about that, in parentheses, I put quantum fluctuations. Quantum fluctuations. Look that up on YouTube. I love PBS for their what's it called? Their series Space Time. If you can just go to that channel on YouTube and look for videos on quantum fluctuations, excellent talks, very easy to understand talks on these topics. You'll be fascinated. Quantum fluctuations, things happening so quickly. A lot of terminology, and this is what I get out of watching these science videos and my own study, of course. A lot of language, especially scientific language, again, about labels, really defines not the thing so much as our ability to see it, our ability to kind of prove it to ourselves. Like if we label it something, then it really is something. Doesn't that sound suspiciously like our craving and our wanting and our clinging? Absolutely. This is the problem with language. Got to be careful. I'll go on here. We can hardly be expected to witness each moment of this process. Again, Planck unit. In point of fact, this is exactly the mechanism given as the model of our universe in its rapid inflationary period, right? The rapid inflation. Some people mistake that for the Big Bang. The Big Bang is a result of the rapid inflation. But then, people linguistically, there's a lot of struggling going on with that right now in cosmology and physics, but don't be concerned about it. In general, it's still factual. And that's what led to the Big Bang, as I say here. That illustrates the unfathomable largesse and speed of this process of formation, right? From an unknowable, super hot energy environment, suddenly an explosion of plasma, because there's nothing there yet. It's all potential. It's forming. The formation is happening. The whole universe works this way, right? And the formation and the formations of forms that came from that, at first largely just hydrogen, the simplest atom, those same particles, another label for energy in a certain form, or amalgam of energies, right? They make up your skin, my eyeballs, our hearts, our planet, our food. Yeah, it's all the same stuff, right? That's mind-blowing. You say, well, Sifu, there are new stars being created all the time. Yes, they are, but what are they being created from? The same stuff. It's so immense to wrap our mind around that. Of course it's difficult to understand. Isn't that what Shakyamuni said? The most difficult to understand. Namo Myo Renge Kyo. And this process of formation continues to this very day as the universe continues to expand. As is the norm, formations, it's a simple word. And it's simply a word. Words are useful containers of ideas that we share. Interesting way to look at words, isn't it? As containers. Formations identifies a transitory phase from energy amalgamating into form or mass and back again. Yeah, because everything arises, abides and decays and dissolves, even you and I. See also quantum fluctuations. Oh, Sifu, thank you so much. You put a term in this book that I can go see so I can get a quick idea. Quantum fluctuations. And that's it. That's my small entry into a huge subject. You could spend a year, I think, revolving and chasing not only the word formations, which you're welcome to do, but how all those disparate definitions and similar definitions apply to Buddhism. Is it important that you become a scholar of formations? No. But if you understand the immensity of what's going on beneath your horizon of expectation and experience way up here at the graphical user interface of the universe, if you understand the amazing mechanisms beneath the way you think, maybe, just maybe, you'll start to understand that your hard opinions about things, they're on pretty shaky ground. This is why we chant. Because ultimately our mind is capable of knowing all of this. And with that knowledge, and you don't have to be able to transcribe it, let your mind do the work. With an enlightened mind, that shaky ground becomes no longer shaky or perturbing. It becomes relieving. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is forever. Nothing affects my life other than what is happening right now and into the next moment at a pace unfathomable. Again, look up moment. It's a release, right? Stress, anxiety is based on solidity, permanence. I'll always be like this. She'll always be like that. It'll always be. I keep repeating that. Yeah, you're repeating. The universe isn't happening to us. It's happening around us, for us, moment to moment. Wow, participate. It's hard, though. That's not the way our cultures teach us, right? Consumerism, get the new and improved. Wow, fabulous. I'm better than you. I have the 49 one. Talk about attachment, clinging, craving. Well, if you're tired of that, tired of suffering and being anxious and worrying, Buddhism is your answer. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Look at all this stuff. It's amazing. I like using it. But I mean, if it stops being useful, that's okay too. Move on. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Life is not that difficult. We certainly can make it so. Thank you for being here. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Please do that. It's very helpful, right? Because it's a Sangha building thing. It uses YouTube's algorithms to make us more available. And that's a Bodhisattva act. That's part of propagation. So thank you, sincerely. Not for me, but for me and you. And, as Nichiren would say, the country, the people, the world, right? Jampudvipa. And if you can do more than that, buy an EBook, buy a print book. If you can deal with the shipping, I'm waiting for a print book version of this book. It's probably going to take 3 weeks to get it, and it cost me more in shipping than it did for the book. Oh, I could spend a lot more if I wanted it in a couple of days, but hello, we don't have the coffers for that. Okay. But the electronic version, with hopefully as few errors as possible, and I got a lot of help from you guys out there, and some of you prefer to be anonymous, so I won't list you all, but thank you so much for your help in finding, errors in grammar and that kind of stuff, even formatting errors that happen just as a process of building a book in a computer. But I think I got it pretty darn close, so it's available on threefoldlotus.com. No shipping or anything. You just a very inexpensive book, and you'll have a reference manual. It'll be electronic. I mean, if you want to print it out, you can spend that money, but most people are reading things electronically now anyway, so there you have it. The print book isn't quite available yet because I'm waiting for that copy to come to me so we can go through it again. Me and my partner here, Sandra, is so amazing. She used to work at a newspaper, so she can zip through stuff pretty quickly and find grammatical errors. So I rely on her a lot. Thank you, Sandra. But anyway, the electronic version is there, and I guess that's my way of foreboding of typos and things you might find. Don't be too alarmed. When I finally get the book, the printable book, completely as possible, correct, I'll update the file for the electronic book. But it's pretty darn close, I would imagine, right now. I've gone through it so many times. And it is available right now, so you can avail yourself of that. In the meantime, Please take care of your health. Yeah. Stay strong in your practice. It's so amazing. And I will see you in the next. Oh, and be kind. It's not hard to do, really. And I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.